Whole Man Academy. Because the world needs strong men. Whole Man Academy is changing the game for men around the world. It's for guys who want to live an epic life of fun and adventure, no matter what. We believe, deep down, all men want to go on their own hero's journey to becoming resilient, confident, fearless, and fulfilled. Listen in to be inspired by guys who don't settle for living a life of mediocrity. This is your call to action and call to adventure. Are you ready?
Okay, so this is the Whole Man Academy podcast, episode 117. My guest today is Adrian Shiel, all the way from Barcelona, digital entrepreneur, LinkedIn expert for coaches, lover of personal development. We're going to talk escaping the 9-to-5, applying optimization that he's learned into your life, social media, and plenty more. But let's start off with, how are you doing?
I'm great, and thank you so much, Anthony, for inviting me. It's an honor. I love what you're doing, and if I can contribute in any way, then I want to, and that's why I'm here.
It's music to my ears, and I say that because I've written on LinkedIn and on other social media platforms how my network has really expanded since I started doing the podcast. And also, one of the things there is so many guys say, if there's someone I can introduce you to, or there's something I can help you with, which I'm always happy to take help, as opposed to go, no, I'll do it all myself. But yeah, like yourself, we're going to talk about LinkedIn and how things if you can expand your network, in theory, if they're the right people, that can really help. But tell me firstly, we could jump back to, was it September 2015 and you quit your 9-to-5? Now,
yes,
I don't necessarily think, I'm not saying that everybody wants to or should quit 9-to-5, but I certainly know a lot of guys who have thought they're in a certain role and they're like looking around thinking, is this it? So what were you doing and how did you get out of that? Because it's not an easy thing to do.
No, it wasn't. And I'm a latecomer to the party. So I was in my 40s then, almost in my mid 40s. I know I don't look it, but yep. I'm actually 51.
Yep.
Yeah, so I've been in the corporate world forever, since leaving school, climbed the ladder, humble boy from Birmingham. And I did what everyone thought they're supposed to do. I built a career, I had ambitions. I wanted to do well. I actually had the opportunity to move to the US. I lived in the US for 5 years, and I just kept climbing the ladder basically. And I got to a position. I was actually a product manager, and I had a big team of people working for me all across. I had this great job, really well paid, great bonuses, company BMW, fly everywhere, business class, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And I was miserable. I was absolutely miserable. Yeah. I would wake up on a Monday morning and just struggle to get out of bed because I couldn't face the drudgery of the week ahead. And I felt guilty as well because I got this job that people coveted. Other people were envious of me, and everyone was like, your job, I want your job. Your job's so good, it's so easy. And for me, it was easy. I could do it with my eyes closed, but it was awful because I was just so unfulfilled. And I just knew I was supposed to be doing something else, and I knew I wanted to. I was really clear that I wanted my own business. I wanted to help people, and I wanted to do something online so I could have the freedom. But I didn't know what. And that's actually when I discovered coaching and mentoring. And I was always a fan of personal development, but it was a secondary thing for me. But it really shifted to the forefront of my life, and it wasn't until I started working with mentors. So basically, I got a big redundancy package from the company I was working from.
It gives you a buffer.
It gave me a buffer, but actually, it gives you a false sense of security. It gives you this safety blanket that actually keeps you in your comfort zone. And I pretty much, I had more than a year's salary, and I pretty much squandered that year's salary just messing around, trying to figure out.
So many people are guys saying, because like you say, it's like there's no urgency because it's like, I've got a month's salary, I'll get on with stuff.
Yeah, and it's in a way it was one of the worst things I could have done, getting that payout. But anyway, it's all good. But it wasn't until that money started to run out And I realized, shit, I don't know what I'm doing. I need to find someone to help me. So that's when it all changed. So I hired, I found mentors, I hired coaches, I figured out what it was I wanted to do. And yeah, the rest is kind of history.
It's such an interesting story, because a lot of what especially the redundancy giving you the buffer, which is good, because then, you're not without money, but like you say, it gives you that kind of security blanket. I know what that's like. I've been made redundant twice and been very lucky both times to get a good payoff, but I've spoke to plenty of other guys who've said the same, that it's that kind of, if you quit your job and you had to start creating money, and in theory by positively impacting people as soon as possible, you take massive action, but it's quite easy to be like, I'll ease myself in.
Yes.
And also I wondered, in that time, having that lack of kind of purpose, when you've not got anybody to tell you what to do, what time to get up, where to be, what to do, what was that like?
It was a really big shock to my system. And, I took a contract in South Korea for 3 months, like working in a similar field to where I was. So that sort of took the force out of the blow a little bit. But when that finished, I was like, okay, now what? What do I do now? And so I'd get up, I'd still get dressed for work, I'd because I was in the corporate world, I'd still put a nice shirt on and just make myself feel like I was working. But then I'd sit down at my computer and be like, what the fuck do I do now? So it was a real shock to my system, and it was actually quite a tough year, because not having a purpose and not really knowing what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go, I was floating in space a little bit. So it wasn't easy.
I would say that I spoke to guys that felt like it kind of is a quiet drain on you, because you kind of you want to feel like you're making progress, moving ahead, and what have you, and it is very hard to snap out of it. I always laugh when I got made redundant for the second time, when I was leaving the city, and I wanted to be, so it all worked perfectly. But I used to get up at 5:30 with Emma to walk her to the station, because she still worked. And I'd walk her to the station, and then I'd turn around and walk home, and I'd get in the door at 6 o'clock in the morning. And then you'd be like, it'd be pitch black. Like, what do I do now? Because I was so used to 20 years of the market's open at 7, speak to clients, pick the phones up, Yahoo people, read this, do that. And suddenly it was like, it's just you. And you're like, I'm not sure about this. So how would you bring that back to the current day? And we're going to get onto the kind of the LinkedIn and coaching side, but so many guys have been affected by lockdowns, et cetera, and some being forced to work from home. So how have you now managed to become, more focused and productive, like just day to day when you're sitting at your desk? Because again, when you haven't got anybody else kind of, not say you should have people standing over you, but it helps when you've got other people around you to kind of get on with it.
Well, I had a little bit of a head start with that, because I used to work from home a lot anyway before I got made redundant. So I had a little bit of practice, but of course I always had someone else's agenda to follow. But you're right, when you have your own agenda, it requires a lot of self-discipline, and it's just something. I've had to build it over time, and personal development has helped with that. Really, figuring out who I am, what I want to do, where I want to go. You have to keep that front and center and keep moving towards it. And now, I'd say I work harder now than I did when I was in the corporate world, but it doesn't feel like work most of the time. I'm just having fun. I'm doing what I want to do on my terms. So
freedom.
Oh God, yeah. And when you're creating stuff, I'm building building things at the moment, making content. It doesn't feel like work. It's fun. It's energizing. Obviously when I'm doing the finances at the end of the month, that's not so much fun. But that I consider that part work, but I don't consider the rest of it work. When I'm working with clients and doing this kind of thing and meeting new people and networking, it's just fun.
That's priceless feeling, I think, I know there's the old saying, or I'll get it wrong, but if you enjoy what you're doing and it's your work, you'll never work a day again. But I'm the same. Last night I was sitting up till 10 o'clock finishing stuff off, but it's not like I'm like, oh, I've got to go. I'm like, hey, I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. Whereas before, I loved it for many years, but after a while it became painful. And I've spoke to enough guys on the podcast who have had those, it's not saying they always hated their job, but maybe they got to a stage, like you say, is this it?
Yeah.
But one of the things that, lockdowns and in this last 2 years, I think have driven a lot of people to realize is that having some kind of ability to earn money online, and I don't necessarily like the term, passive income, because there's a shitload of work you do beforehand.
Yeah.
But a lot of guys are interested in doing that kind of stuff. And you obviously say like a digital entrepreneur. So what is digital entrepreneur for you, and how would a guy be able to kind of implement it?
Well, I think I did it. I put the cart before the horse. So what my journey was, I cut all ties from the corporate world. But I actually think that was a mistake. And I'm kind of, it's great because I've learned along the way. But what I did was I moved into the high ticket world straight away. So I focused on creating a high ticket offer, for several $1,000s, and working on that and really slugging it out to, build this funnel and this thing where, people get enrolled and you get them on a call and you have to learn how to do sales. My background is not sales, so it's really painful for me to do that. So it was, I caused myself quite a lot of pain by doing that, but I was successful. I built 2 businesses now that are successful doing that. But I realized I just looked around, and I found people like, I know we're both fans of Justin Welsh.
His name is on the list.
Yeah, I saw what he was doing, and he did it the other way. He eased himself in with a low ticket, and he focused on content and building his audience, and then having a big enough audience that they're interested in buying something from you. So if I was going to give some advice to someone who's still in a job maybe and thinking either about starting their own business or just having a side hustle, I would do what I'm doing now, which is focusing on building a bigger following and just figuring out, okay, what knowledge do I have that can be beneficial to other people, that's going to help someone, and then who is that someone? Find out what your niche is, who you can help, and then figure out what knowledge you can provide to them. And even if you just go on something like Gumroad and sort of $10 product, like getting started and doing something, that's what I would do. If I had to do it all again, I'd probably keep work on a side hustle, because what I found is when you do something like this, when you're working on something that is fun and energizing, it actually spills into other areas of your life, and you become more productive at work. You become more, so that would be my advice. Anyone who's thinking of making a big change and perhaps getting out of the corporate world, that's the way I would do it.
Yeah, you said something really important there. I know there's always different thoughts on how people should, if they're looking to leave their 9 to 5. But I'm a very big one for, if you can, keep your 9 to 5, which pays, as long as you can just cover your bills. It doesn't have to provide you with a lavish lifestyle. Or if you can go and if you hate what you do, then maybe you do need to leave, but go and get a job that just covers the baseline of bills whilst you work on everything else, as opposed to saying, shove it to your boss, walk out, and then go, right, I'm making money online. And then you realize it's not as easy as people would make out.
Other people will tell you otherwise, but they're and some people have that kind of personality when they, my co-founder in my other business in High Performing Coach is like that. He's the kind of person that they can say, up yours, I'm going to do this tomorrow. And he'll do it. He will. He's such a performance focused, but he's so rare that such a rare breed. But most of us aren't like that, and we need to figure shit out and take it step by step. So I think for the majority of people, do it your way.
It's definitely, I know I see some guys who, again, will either be on our email list and will ask me advice. And I always say, I'm no expert. I've got years of experience in what to do, not to do. And I'm trying to get around more guys like yourself who just give you, sometimes it's simple stuff that you need to just be like, right, I'm focusing on this instead of trying to do all this different stuff. But I wondered if you, with the personal development world in general, because I didn't get into it basically, which sounds pathetic, until I was about 35. And I started listening to podcasts, and then I started listening to, you know, like Tony Robbins and people like that. I'm always an obvious name that comes up. But I look back and I'm like, where would I be now if I'd have started listening when I was 20, you know, or in my early 30s? And I've met guys who are, you know, 20 years old, and they're already taken, you know, a lot of thoughts and ideas from these people. And I'm like, that's where the money is. And when I say money, I mean in development in yourself as much as the proper you know, actual currency wide. But at what point did you get into it, and who were the people that you looked up to at that point?
I mean, you know, I've read books and always sort of, like I said, had a loose interest in personal development, and, you know, more, I guess, focused on management, you know, what I was doing back then. But honestly, it wasn't until, you know, you say you're a latecomer, 35. I was 44 when I really realized, hang on a minute, if I'm going to get anywhere in life, and I don't mean financially, I just mean if I'm going to feel, you know, and don't get me wrong, I've done so much in my life. I've traveled, been really fortunate, but something was missing. And if I'm going to find that thing, and I'm really going to be able to look back on my life one day and say, that was a life well lived, then I need something more, because the tools I've got aren't working. And yeah, you know, people like Tony Robbins and, you know, discovering Landmark and discovering meditation through various people, you know, following a lot of what Mind Valley do. I know that's a bit more woo-woo, but just bringing all this stuff together and really, you know, focusing and learning about myself, about life, about what's actually possible. And I didn't do that till I was 44. And, you know, that's the thing that's made the difference for me. It's the thing that has made it possible for me to be where I am now, to be, you know, successful, however you want to define success. But I think
you said the age of, like, let's say 44. I assume you know, or do you know who Daniel Priestley is?
Yeah. He's actually in my other business. He's our coach. We actually hire him as our sort of one-to-one coach.
Okay, so I interviewed Daniel, God, I don't know, about 100 episodes ago or something like that, you know. And I think it's where you end up being on for about an hour 45 or something like that. And then I went to one of his events, and anyway, so I've always...
Was that the Key Person of Influence event?
Yeah, it was one of their kind of one-day seminars, and then I went to the roundtable mastermind thing he was doing, and I learned to you know, if you want to go after someone and learn from them, you want to just not follow them, but get around them. So I basically hung around to the end. Then me and him got in the lift together, walked to the station together, and had some little ideas on things. But I remember him saying, you know, most people don't start their businesses on average till they're like early 40s or something like that, which gives the average guy that's listening to this, I would guess average age is probably about 40. It gives you hope that it's like, oh, it's not, you see 20-year-olds that are doing this super cool stuff online with lots of followers, and you're like, yes, but for lots of guys, starting at wherever you are now is just as good.
Yeah, and what people don't realize is when you start at that age, you know, past 40, first of all, generally you've got a big professional network and a lot of people that actually already have trust in you. And just through being older, you have more authority, you have more credibility, because you have more life experience. And it's never too late. It's never too late. And you know, thank God, or I'd still be stuck in a job that I hated.
And doesn't that, you know, again, I know what that's like, you know, that's like, and I know lots of guys that have that, and it just gives them hope that it's not easy to go off and find the other thing. I had plenty of people that told me, you're mad for doing it and you won't earn as much money, or you won't do this and that. And I'm like, listen, it doesn't, you know, money's important to one level because you've got bills to pay. But ultimately, when you're sitting there for 10 hours a day going, I don't want to be here, you're never going to get those 10 hours or, you know, 10 years back.
That's a third of your life that you're wasting. Yeah,
which I think should be a wake-up call for people. But I wondered for you, I mean, the Whole Man Academy is big on getting guys together to talk, and, you know, hence why we create the podcast, so that guys can listen to others. But who have you kind of talked to through the years, you know, that you're surrounded? I mean, like, let's call it, sometimes we say either father or father figure, or just mentors, or just friends, or what's going to work for you?
So I've hired various different coaches, and I think for me it was just finding the right person at the right time. So I haven't necessarily hired any big name coaches except for Daniel Priestley maybe.
Yeah.
I worked with a guy called Peter Sage way back when.
Yes, Peter Sage. I wrote to him in prison.
Yeah. He's actually I know him pretty well. I worked with Peter for a while. They're probably the two well-known names that I've worked with.
Yes.
But just even just like when I first realized that I needed to learn digital marketing and things like that, I just hired the person that I could see was 3 or 4 steps ahead of me, who I knew was getting results, and I just paid him $3,000 and said, teach me everything you know. Yeah. And I've kind of done that. I've always just found like who's around me and ahead of me and is in reach. And now, right now, unofficially, Justin Welsh is my kind of mentor. He's the person I'm learning off most.
Yeah.
And a couple of others, but I tend to do that, so I just kind of look for who can I see and who's close by, who's attainable, who can I get to guide me, whether I pay them or not, it doesn't really matter. But
well, you said something important there, giving someone, if you can afford it, a few £1,000s. I would say that's firstly where I probably made mistakes early on, because you kind of think, I'll do it all myself, and then you realize you could have folded time and massively increased your by kind of, I wouldn't say throwing money at a problem, but trying to solve it. But that kind of led me on to with LinkedIn, because like you say, with someone like Justin Welsh, who we're going to come on to as well, but when I was reading your content, it was in a great way, it was simple and effective, and it was just telling to do kind of one thing at a time instead of trying to do everything. Talk about your relationship with LinkedIn, because at what point did you realize, and we'll come on to the numbers that you and I talked about the other day, but at what point did you realize what a powerful tool it could be?
So, when was it? It was 2000, I think it was late 2017, or was it 18? I can't remember. A few years ago, we were starting. I'd met my business partner then, Max, and we actually had an agency. We were doing digital marketing for coaches and a few different niches actually. But we decided, we realized that done for you digital marketing for coaches was really a struggle, because most people that were hiring us wanted to pay for a problem to go away, and they didn't want to be involved. And any business, you have to be, especially when you're a solopreneur and it's about you, you've got to be involved in your marketing.
Yeah.
It's half of your business is your marketing.
Yeah.
So, and people were paying us to just take it away. So we were obviously struggling to get them results, because trying to drag them back into their own marketing. So we decided, look, the way to go here is to teach people how to be involved in their own marketing, teach people how to do this. And then maybe on the back of that, we'll get clients who get that, and we can work a better way with them. So we decided we were going to create a program to do this. And, we figured all that stuff out. We took courses, hired, who we needed to hire to figure it out. And we realized we wanted a coach, we wanted a mindset coach to work with us as well, because, we've already said so much of business is about mindset. And if you don't have that personal development base, it's really tough to be successful in business. And then we met Ryan, who was actually a client of ours, and he had the same idea. He wanted to start a business, and he needed people who knew the digital marketing side. So we cut a long story short, we set up a business called High Performing Coach.
Yeah.
And it was to help coaches, specifically life coaches, to grow, to turn their hobby of coaching, which it is for most coaches, into an actual business, how to get the business off the ground. And, we knew all this, we knew what to do. We knew how to do Facebook ads, build a webinar and everything. But for that particular niche, and we've done it so many times before, but for that particular niche, and using Ryan as the face of the business because he was a coach, excuse me, we fell flat on our faces. We got some results, but not big enough results to feed 3 mouths and build our business quickly.
Yeah. And live well.
And live well, yeah. And we were like, shit, we need to get back to the drawing board here. So, okay, what's the quickest way to get people interested in what we're doing? And well, the quickest way is to go and bang on doors and tell people what we're doing. So we figured out, well, let's look at LinkedIn. LinkedIn is, a lot of coaches are on LinkedIn and a lot of the planets on LinkedIn actually. So let's just go and have a look. So we got on LinkedIn, we started connecting with people, just getting into conversations and inviting them to have calls, like turning that into a sales call. And straight away, we started getting results. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. LinkedIn is a gold mine. And within, I don't know how many months it was, but so there was the three of us as co-founders. We hired one VA just to help us with the volume of stuff we were doing. I figured out how to systematize all that. And I completely fell in love with LinkedIn on the way. And we started hitting $100,000 a month with just three of us and one VA. So I was like, there's really something in this. And that was kind of where I realized how powerful LinkedIn is, and I love it for many different reasons, not least that reason, but also because the level of conversation, the level of, I know you still get some crap in your newsfeed if you want to follow the wrong people, but generally the conversation happening on LinkedIn is just way more intelligent, way more, useful and beneficial. And I know you still get fake news, you still get the normal negative news on there, but
you can filter that out if you want to, can't you? And,
exactly. You choose who you follow, and you get the stuff in the newsfeed that you actually want to see.
Isn't that? I mean, we talk a lot about social media because, again, guys like us, I'm 44 now. I didn't grow up with social media like you didn't, so thank God, because fuck knows what it'd have been like for me in my 20s, and especially. I was thinking on nights out with some of the stupid stuff you did, and that someone could whip a phone out and video you and then broadcast it to the world. That would not have been, isn't
game over.
That's it. Not an attractive thought for me. But what I, very quickly realized with LinkedIn was, like you say, you're going to get numpties on there like you do anywhere with their sad selfies and cat videos and what have you.
Yeah.
But the difference on there, what I've seen between like LinkedIn to Instagram or Facebook is, I just don't like Facebook at all now. I mean, I hardly used it, but years ago, it's just like it's in the background. But we seem to build up, not a big following, but have a good core of guys on Instagram. But my frustration was, it is so, it was made for pictures, not words.
Yeah.
And for me, I don't want to be taking loads of selfies of myself, fine to share pictures of you so people kind of like you, resonate with you, etc. But I like trying to write about things. And Instagram, I just don't think people even read the posts. People go next, like next.
Yeah.
And the psychology behind that, I know there is, as I've read from your stuff. But what I saw on LinkedIn is that I really enjoy reading and learning from guys like yourself and Justin, etc. That I just don't get on like Instagram.
Yeah. I like to think of LinkedIn as the thinking man's social media platform. And it's funny because LinkedIn tried to introduce video in a big way, probably 2019, 2020, even 21, but they've just realized that people don't really want to watch video on LinkedIn. And you got to remember that the average LinkedIn user is probably at work.
Yeah.
So if they get, if they're on LinkedIn, so if they put a video on, the sound comes on their bottom. So people, but whereas if they just have their phone there, they can read through stuff. It's more, it works better. So I mean, I agree, and I love writing as well. I love writing, and I'm not, I'm not a fan of selfies. And although I have found, I published this terrible photo of me, thinking and stressed out, and that got so much traction on LinkedIn. I was really surprised. So
it's kind of, it's kind of sad, isn't it? I mean, I saw I'm trying to think what the channel is on YouTube where they talk about like the school of truth or something like that. And one of them was a great example of a girl who has got like a chart, and she's looking in the mirror and she's like, I can share about, let's say personal development and mindset meditation, and I'll get 3 likes. If I share this, I'll get about, but if I just twerk on camera with my arse out and my boobs out, I get all this. And that's the sad thing, isn't it? Is that you're like, you can put outstanding content out, but a lot of people are so kind of drawn to the jazz hand stuff
Yeah.
and the slightly more sordid or seedier stuff that you like. You go, sometimes you can share some great stuff, and then you put a picture of you just going like that, and you go, I've got 20% more likes.
Yeah, exactly. It's a sad truth, you know.
Mm.
So I think there has to be, you know, you have to find a balance of how much of the jazz hand stuff you use and how much genuinely, you know, useful content you're putting out there. But if you think about it, so my kids are on TikTok, right? Biggest mistake I ever made. Letting them go on TikTok, but they're on TikTok.
How old are your kids?
My son is 13 and my daughter's 11.
Right.
So I have a TikTok account to keep an eye on them, but of course you end up getting drawn in, right? And I don't know. Hey, I don't know where this comes from. Disclaimer. But I always seem to end up with these twerking girls in my feed somehow, right?
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything. I'm asking my daughter, why does this keep happening? And she's like, are you liking that stuff?
Yes, algorithms, they know.
I'm not liking anything, I promise.
Yeah.
I mean, I do like it, but I'm not liking it.
Yes.
So if you imagine, you know, someone on TikTok, for example, if they're scrolling through and seeing all these working girls, and then they come across something, you know, from me telling them how to do something on LinkedIn, they're probably going to scroll straight past because they're in that mode of, you know, it's so like you've got to find a way. And TikTok's an extreme example, but you've got to find a way to break their pattern.
Yeah.
You know, to stop the scroll basically, and it could be anything. But when you're competing with twerking girls, it's not easy.
Well, so it's always funny sometimes because I'll write a kind of a list of things that, you know, bullet points of what I want to talk about, and it so often happens where the guy will mention something that is linked to what I'm just going to talk about. But you said about stopping scrolling, and that's where it becomes an art form. Because again, I always think now, you know, you can create the best products in the world, but if no one knows about them because you don't know how to explain how good they are and why someone should, you know, spend their hard-earned money on them and spend their time on them, then it's a waste of time. So how much of that have you learned about? Because it is the psychology of what you're writing and how you're writing it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, my strategy is always to provide value and build authority over time. You know, let people see that you actually know what you're talking about, and then, so I always have everything I do as a call to action, more or less. So if I put a short post on LinkedIn, normally there'll be a call to action to say, hey, if you want to know more about this topic, click here. So then they click here, then they go to a longer piece of content. So when the psychology behind it is when somebody is spending more time consuming your content or anything that you do, it might be reading, it might be watching a video of you or opening an email. Yeah. There's a statistic, actually, I got this from Dan Priestley, that if someone consumes 7 hours of your content on at least 11 different occasions across 4 different media,
right,
then they switch. This is Dan Priestley. They switch from being an acquaintance to actually being a friend in their minds. Okay. So the more you can get people to absorb and consume and just see you as the go-to person, the more they're going to trust you in the end. And that's always been my strategy with content, is just give people value, show them that I know what I'm talking about. I'm the go-to person, you know, for what they need. Of course, my niche is very focused. It's coaches, consultants, generally. And eventually, they just want to work with you somehow or other, whether it's buying a digital product or one-to-one coaching or, you know, whatever it is.
I heard a term a while ago, which I'd not heard expressed, how can I put it, out loud before, but one of the guys I was working with had been following someone else, and he said, I really like this stuff. I want to give them some money. Like, I want to spend some money with these guys. And I realize now you need to give people the opportunity to, because if someone, like for you, now they can look at your stuff and be like, hey, this guy's got some really shit hot stuff he's talking about. What has he got available? Oh, he's got a course on optimizing or whatever it is, you know, or he can work one-to-one. I want to do it. And that's where I probably was in the city, not necessarily with the high ticket stuff, but I was buying courses left, right, and center and books and actually doing them. But I always think guys don't realize what a mountain of knowledge they're sitting on these days, and how you can tie that up, you know, into some kind of digital money, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And everybody has a subject that they are an absolute expert in, whether they realize it or not. And even if there are bigger, better experts than them, it doesn't matter, because you only have to be 1 or 2 steps ahead of your audience to be considered an expert by them. That's the
just to
the
help
beauty,
solve a problem or something.
Yeah, if you can just help solve some small problem for someone somewhere, you know who that person is, you know who to go after, then you have a product, you have something to offer, you can make money.
Isn't that important to know? Because then once you've got, you don't have to have all the answers, like you say. It's like, even if you can have that idea in your head of, I've got this product, then it's like, now I can go to people or buy courses and get them to, I mean, you can pay people to do that stuff for you.
Yeah.
But let's go on to the numbers, because this is why we spoke on one of the posts the other day. And you'd said there's like 800, roughly 850 million users on LinkedIn. And I said, wow, half of that, assuming, is men. Therefore, there's a lot of customers and guys you can impact. And you said, actually, it was more like 57% men. Therefore, that came out at 484,500,000. So I've learned not to. There's nothing wrong with thinking big, but sometimes, to be more realistic, I realized that if my target was to just impact 0.5% of those men, that would still be 2,422,500, which would be more than enough people to fill my bank account, make great events with guys coming to, and create impact. So just one of those things. People go, I want to reach all these people. Go, what about if you said, I'm going to try and reach or impact 0.5% of all the men on LinkedIn? It feels a lot more doable and less pressure than everybody. So how about yourself? Because I mean, there are a lot of customers around, but I know there's lurkers, and then there's people that are actually going to spend money and do what you suggest.
Yeah. Well, there's, my niche right now. So I work with coaches and consultants. And part of the reason for that is because, I kind of want to pay it back, because coaching has got me to where I am, from being coached. So I want to help coaches, get to their goals. And that's right now. But I'm also kind of passionate, like you are, about just helping people, whether it's quit their 9 to 5. I mean, for me, it is quit their 9 to 5. And doing something different. So I don't know if there's something there in the future for me to go down that road or not. But even if I stick with coaches, there's a million of them just on LinkedIn.
Yes.
And
it's nuts, isn't it?
I don't, I have a digital product that's, I'm just finishing it off now. It will cost a couple of $100.
Yep.
If I just sell, 10 of those per month, it's $2,000 for doing nothing. And it is so easy to sell 10 of something a month to, I already have, I think I have about 21,500 followers on LinkedIn. I just realized I have about 15,000 on Facebook as well. I never use Facebook. I never ever use Facebook, but somehow I got 15,000 followers. I didn't realize.
Yeah.
So I've got a lot of, a big audience to market to, something that's very affordable, a couple of $100 for a product, and so it's very easy for me to just make a comfortable living, do something that I love without, like you said earlier, a lot of work goes into creating something like that. But now that it's created, it's on autopilot, and there's nothing more satisfying than waking up in the morning, just looking at Stripe and seeing that you've made like $300 or $400 while you were sleeping, which is great.
That's a feeling that maybe everybody should have. I've just wiped my whiteboard, which I've got a big whiteboard behind my in my office. But on there at the time, I think it's the 27th of July, 2021, which is the first morning I ever woke up and I'd sold a online course. And, $97 had been put into my Stripe or PayPal, or I hate PayPal, but anyway, PayPal account. And it's like, sometimes, I've read different guys that have said, once that happens, it gives you the belief that you're like, okay, I'm doing something right. How can I optimize it, scale it, and improve it?
Yeah. It's funny because I have a high ticket offer for several $1,000s where people pay me, and a lot of work goes into creating clients. And then I have this program that isn't finished, by the way, and I've sold, like 30 or 40 of them now for something that doesn't even exist yet.
I love it.
And I'm selling it for half price for $100. And I get more of a kick out of seeing those $100 come in on their own than I do out of, enrolling someone into my program for several $1,000s. Because it's like, it's because I can see that that's something that can build and run on its own and generate what is now passive income.
I tell you what, I mean, I think for so many guys, again, they don't realize how it's not that it's simple to do, but it's easy to get started on. Is, you know, any kind of online course which can generate some income coming in. And again, it doesn't have to be little amounts; it could be big amounts depending on what you're doing.
Yeah.
But you know, I've got I'm in we call it mastermind because for want of a group of guys who are all, I mean, certainly they're all ahead of me in the digital course world. But one of the big things we talk about is the completion rate of your courses and how frustrating it can be that people will spend money on these things and they just don't do any of it. And it just reminds you sometimes that you can put blood, sweat, tears, and any other bodily fluids you want into creating these courses, and someone will spunk, for want of a better word, but will spunk thousands on it. And guess what? And like, look at the intro and then be like, oh, I'm going to watch Love Island now and not do anything, or watch the football or something.
Yeah.
And that reminds you that you're like, you know, you can create all this stuff, but sometimes you can't decide on the impact it will have because some people just won't bother with it.
Yeah, and you got to let go of that because you know, I mean, it's different in my program because a lot of it's live coaching and group calls and stuff. But still, when I look at, and I'm telling them, you know, you got to do this week. But when I go and look at what they've done, few of them do more than 50% of the online training. It's an online, but they're getting results. You know, so okay, something's working.
Yeah.
But yeah, of the purely digital products, I'm expecting maybe 10-20% of people will actually, you know, make it to the end and do stuff. But it's human nature, you know.
Yeah.
You can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Well, I was wondering, I'd say for you, because I know I have bought courses and not done them. I spent $5,000 or $6,000, I can't even remember, on a course when I left the city, and I realized I didn't have anything, like it was about creating a digital online kind of, you know, what do you want to call it, like product and what have you, but I didn't really have the idea of what I was going to niche in. So I basically like worked through the course without me knowing what I was focusing on, and then never logged in again, which my partner obviously never let me forget to stay on, because you know, that was back when $5 or $6,000 was a lot of money and it wasn't just a tank of petrol. Have you ever done that where you've bought books or you've bought courses and then you're like, I haven't actually done anything?
Yeah, because in that moment, with all good intentions, like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do it. Yeah. But then, you know, things change, life happens, whatever. But yeah, I think everybody, well, I've certainly done that. Yeah, more than once. In fact, I've paid for things I probably haven't even logged into once. Maybe have logged into once a couple of times, which is rather embarrassing. But yeah.
Nice. It is amazing. And it just, so with our energy protocol course, I think I remember looking, the first 70 people that bought it, we had a completion rate of about 35% or something like that.
Well, that's good. That's really good.
Which I didn't have a clue. And I was pissed off because I was like, why the fuck aren't these people working through it all? Or these guys? And then the guys would be like, and you know, some of their courses that were saying to thousands and thousands and thousands of people were getting like 5% completion rate or something. So here's what I did. Sometimes I'd see the guys that completed the whole lot, and because I wasn't selling it at scale, it's not like there was millions of them. And I'd actually email someone, hey, just want to give you, like, doff my cap to you and say, well done for completing it, because most people can't be asked. But let's talk about just quickly on tech, because I know I'm rubbish with tech. You're good at tech. How have you found it with creating a digital course? Because I think that's where a lot of people get kind of a bit flustered with, like, I've got all these systems and what have you. What have you found?
So for me, the hardest part is the creation, you know, doing the videos and stuff, and that's really the hardest bit, and you know, then editing the videos and all that stuff. But the actual platform to deliver stuff, I find that really, really easy. So it's not the bottleneck for me. But I think just keeping it simple, you know, not people like, and I've been guilty of this, you know, I haven't got the right lighting in my office, or I haven't got you know, I don't have a camera. But you don't need all that shit. People don't care about, you know, high level production. People care about, is this, what's the benefit of this to me? And they don't care as long as the sound is good and they can hear what you're saying. So I have this, you know, and even this mic is only, I don't know, it cost me like 60 euros or something. and that's about the most expensive thing I bought. I figured out now that I can use my phone as a camera, which is a bit better than this FaceTime camera. But I think, just keeping it simple. I'm not trying to do anything too flashy. And now, so a lot of my module, my training lessons are screen sharing. So I just use Loom, which is like $10 a month. It's an online, screen recorded thing. It has my little face in the corner. It's not great, but it's sufficient.
Yeah.
And I'm so much more productive when I keep it simple, because I'm not worrying about everything being perfect. And that's made a huge difference. But the hardest part I find is, actually just doing it and just, getting and doing the content. Like, take all the barriers and restrictions and the obstacles away. Just make it simple as you can, and then just do it.
Do you find that, and I know the answer to this myself, is because I'm guessing primarily you work on your own at home. Do you think you'd be more productive if you worked in an office with, let's just say, 10 other guys, but you had a room to go into? Because you kind of, I know you have more, is it accountability, or maybe there's different energy? Or I wondered what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah. Oh, sorry about that. I think it's the truth. Sorry, that is me, right? Apparently, I've got something coming up. I thought I'd silenced my reminders, but apparently not. I think a combination of both, because, I definitely, so I'm an ambivert, right? So I can sometimes be introverted and sometimes extroverted, which serves me well, because when I'm trying to focus, I just shut myself off from the world and get shit done. But I also get energy off of other people, especially obviously the right people. You don't want to be hanging around negative people, but yeah, it makes a big difference to have a team around you. And I've, I'm working on my own in the Linkless Coach project, but I still have a kind of a team in the other business if I need to pull on anyone to help. I really made traction when I got myself a business partner and just had someone else to bounce ideas off, and not necessarily being in the same room as them, but at least having someone to reach out to and bounce ideas off. But it's a combination for me. It's there are times where, this week I've just been on my own creating content, finishing the online course off and stuff like that. But I think both, but you definitely need to have a network of people around you. You've got to have other people that have the same mindset as you around you to talk to. I'm not saying you need to drop all your other friends, but I try and spend as much time as I can with like-minded people who want to do more in the world. And because when you hang around with the average person, they want to go down the pub, drink beer, and talk about how shit the news is, football. I mean, I love football, but I don't want to talk about it all the time. And stuff like that, that doesn't really push me forwards. So I try and spend as much time as I can around the right people. And if you can get in the same room as the right people, even better.
I was going to say, at least these days, there's always the positives, negatives of the digital age, as it were. But, you and I would never have been able to sit down and have this conversation if we weren't on Zoom stuff.
Absolutely.
And like you say, nothing can replicate that's why our Whole Man Academy dinners were good, and events, because you got the guys in the room.
Well, the next one's in Barcelona, right? So
yes, that's why I put it on my whiteboard, and I told my partner, obviously, it's definitely men only, and I can only fly over on my own. But this is one of the things, again, looking around for other men and it doesn't have to be other men, but things where the Whole Man Academy men talk about men stuff is, and you said the name Justin Welsh. Now, our e-letter this morning that went out is about him, although I haven't, because this will go out after. But I talk about the fact that I got some unsolicited feedback the other day about a term I used, and I was told, oh, that wouldn't be well received by certain people. And the thing was, those people aren't the people I'm trying to appeal to. I'm not trying to attract. So I shared where he said, promote yourself online every single day, your work, brand, opinions, how you think. People will either love you, customers hate you, who cares, join you, network, follow you, students, or ignore you already. And I was like, I think that in life, not just on a LinkedIn or whether you've got a business, is really important as well. But at what point did you first kind of see Justin Welsh's stuff? And I'll drop in just quickly. The funny thing is, you and I mentioned him the other day when we spoke. I had screenshot that tweet, I think it was, without knowing who this guy was. I just didn't even know. And when you told me about him, I was like, this is the tweet that I printed out. So I just wonder where it started with you.
So you mean where Justin Welsh?
Yeah, like at what point did you start reading his like content?
Actually, when I created my high ticket program for Linked Coach early this year, I was doing a lot of research. You know, I actually paid for other people's courses and programs, spent a lot of money on researching it and just figuring out the best way to, not that I need to learn more, but that I just wanted to make sure it delivered in the best possible way. And actually one of the people in my high ticket program put me onto Justin Welsh and said, hey, take a look at this. So I bought his course, the LinkedIn operating system, and just realized, wow, this is so simple. And so, you know, and what he's doing is so simple. And then I started looking at his content, like, this is so impactful, you know, and it opened my eyes to, and also I knew that up until then, quite honestly, my weak point was content.
Yeah.
You know, so to be successful on LinkedIn, you know, there's 3 pillars. There's your profile's got to be set up in the right way so it pulls people in. You need to know how to grow your network and connect with people in the right way, but also you need content, valuable content. And I was putting content out there, and yeah, it was valuable, but it was such an onerous thing, you know. It was taking so long for me to create this content. I would literally
blank screen, like
one post would take me hours and hours and hours, you know, and I was trying to post twice a week and just, you know, procrastinating on it, trying to come up with content at the last minute. It's like, yeah, it was painful. And then I realized there's another way. There's a better way. And I learned that from Justin, and it's transformed how not necessarily the content itself, but how I produce it and how efficient it is now. So yeah, but I've only been following Justin myself for about 6 months.
Yeah, I think it's rare that I always try and find. Again, like yourself, I would read your posts, and I was like, right, I need to, like, I'll look at everything. And I think I said to you, I was screenshotting your stuff and putting it in a folder, because otherwise it just goes. And sometimes I need basic, simple reminders of. And you know, you've helped me think about my banner, which was shite to start with. It's getting better slowly. But I always say to guys, even if, so here's what I did about a week ago, is I said, do you know what? I needed to focus more on LinkedIn, and I am doing that, you know, like as a plan now, as opposed to just, I'll post some bits on it. But one of the things I realized was, like, I needed to unsubscribe to loads of stuff that I was, you know, like after this, I would open my email and there'll be stuff from Brian Tracy, stuff from Tony Robbins, stuff, and I never look at any of it, but it just clogs up my brain. So I was like, right, I unsubscribed for about 30 different things. I've subscribed to your e-letter, and I'm like, if I just focus on, let's say, your stuff, Justin stuff, what have you, it will help me reach more men through LinkedIn than me dicking around with all of this stuff.
Yeah, and that's exactly, you know, I was the same at first. You know, I would follow, he looks good, I'm gonna follow him, she looks good, and I'd end up following, you know, I have all these bloody emails in my inbox and just not able to read them all, and it's like, where do I start? So now I just decide, okay, what am I trying to achieve right now, and who can help me get there? And if someone's not on that, doesn't fit that criteria, I lovingly unsubscribe, because it just clutters up my inbox. Or sometimes I'll set up a tag, you know, in my Gmail inbox, and you know, store them in a place where if I want to, I can go and read their stuff one day. But not many people make it to my actual inbox these days, and it's generally just the people who are going to get me to the next, you know, the next stage where I'm going to go.
That at
so
least,
I'm the same.
It reminds me that I'm doing the right thing by that, because sometimes you're like, you know, I don't mind if people unsubscribe to I'd rather a guy unsubscribe to my content and go off and go after what he wants 100% than add it to the list of things that doesn't really get read. And I never understood about email open rates. So we have an average rate of about 50% of.
That's really good.
And again, I would be like, why isn't everybody reading it? And then the guys with me like, no, that's okay. You know, and now if I get one that's like 45%, I'm like, I look at it, I'm like, what did I do wrong? Is it this or that or something? But you realize that you're like, it just shows you can put amazing content out, and basically at least half the people just won't even read it anyway, or won't even open it.
Yeah, well, the industry standard of any marketing or newsletter type email is 20% open rate.
Oh, really? Okay.
That's the industry standard. So if you're getting 50, I'm getting 50 as well in linked coach, but not in high performing coach, because we're way more commercial and a lot more marketing messages.
Yeah.
But I think we're getting about 32% in high performing coach, but I'm getting 50 plus. So, but they're really high open rates for the industry. So don't beat yourself up. Just remember that you are 2.5 times above the average. Especially
if I've been making up as I go along. But that's my. If you're, I know it's 11 o'clock. Are you good for another 5-10 minutes or?
I actually have another call starting now, so
that's all right. I was going to say, I sense we'll have another podcasting at some point, hopefully. My last question was just about like kind of getting a network of guys around you. But I mean, it's great for guys to be able to listen to what you said about LinkedIn, because I just think a lot of people won't realize either that the importance of being on it or what's possible on it, to be honest. And hopefully we'll kind of be sharing some more of your content through the Whole Man Academy e-letter and stuff like that. That
would be awesome. And just to leave you with a Jim Rohn phrase, your network is your net worth. So the more, the more good people you surround yourself with, the more your worth is going to increase. That's how I always look at it. And LinkedIn is perfect for doing that. Something
good to remember. We're also going to be sharing the link to your course as well, just in case guys want to optimize their LinkedIn, which could lead to a bigger money tree as much as anything else.
Right.
I absolutely appreciate your time. I will continue to read your content, and hopefully you've enjoyed your hour of chatting to me as well.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been fun. So yeah, thanks for inviting me on, and let's do something else another time. It'd be great.
Sounds like a plan. Lovely. Right, I will let you go. I'll speak to you soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye, mate.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. Remember to sign up to our game-changing weekly e-letter that's read by men around the world. Sign up at wholemanacademy.com/movement. Until next time.